Capitalism as an economic system has been both widely praised and deeply criticized. At its core, capitalism is defined by private ownership of the means of production, profit-driven enterprise, and market competition. Its most ardent defenders argue that capitalism drives innovation, increases efficiency, and rewards hard work. These proponents often point to the massive economic growth seen in capitalist countries, particularly the United States, as proof of its effectiveness in improving living standards. However, the truth about capitalism is more nuanced. While it does encourage innovation and productivity, it also tends to create significant inequality. Wealth and power often accumulate in the hands of a few, leaving many behind. This disparity is not merely incidental, it's baked into the system through mechanisms like inheritance, capital gains, and market monopolies. As a result, opportunities are not as evenly distributed as capitalist theory might suggest. Capitalism thrives on competition, but over time, successful corporations often work to eliminate it. Through mergers, acquisitions, and lobbying, large businesses can shape markets and laws in their favor, creating quasi-monopolies or oligopolies. This undermines the principle of a free market and can lead to higher prices, lower wages, and fewer choices for consumers. In this way, capitalism can shift from a dynamic system to one that protects entrenched interests. Another harsh truth is capitalism's relationship with labor. While it's true that capitalism creates jobs, it also commodifies labor, treating workers as inputs rather than people. This leads to practices like wage suppression, gig work exploitation, and unsafe working conditions. The system prioritizes profit margins, often at the expense of employee well-being, unless strong labor protections and unions are in place. Moreover, capitalism relies on constant growth, which often clashes with environmental sustainability. Infinite growth on a finite planet is logically and physically impossible. The pressure to extract more resources, produce more goods, and sell more services contributes to pollution, deforestation, and climate change. The environment is typically viewed as an externality, a cost not accounted for in profit calculations. On the cultural level, capitalism shapes values and behaviors. Consumerism becomes a dominant way of life where identity and status are tied to material possessions. Advertising and media promote endless consumption, fostering dissatisfaction and a sense of inadequacy. This cultural effect often distracts from deeper issues like inequality, social justice, and community well-being.
Firstly, thank you for watching, and don't forget to smash that like, subscribe, and notification bell for more global finance uncovered, as we continue to work hard and around the clock to always deliver and improve on our content for you. We would greatly appreciate your additional support by you clicking the like button, notification bell, and subscribe button and joining our channel's growth.
Capitalism also influences political systems. Wealth often translates into political power through campaign financing, lobbying, and media ownership. This distorts democratic processes, enabling corporations and the wealthy to shape laws and policies to serve their interests rather than the public good. In this way, capitalism can erode the foundations of democracy. However, it's important to recognize that capitalism is not a monolith. There are many variations, from laissez-faire capitalism to social democracy. Countries like Sweden or Germany, for example, combine market economies with robust welfare systems and regulations to mitigate capitalism's harsher impacts. These mixed models suggest that capitalism can be shaped by policy and public will. Critics argue for alternative systems like socialism or cooperative economics that emphasize shared ownership and egalitarianism. But these systems come with their own challenges and risks. The truth may not lie in a complete replacement of capitalism, but in reforming it to be more equitable, sustainable, and democratic. This includes strengthening labor rights, taxing wealth, regulating corporations, and investing in public goods. In the end, capitalism is a tool powerful, flexible, but also dangerous if left unchecked. It reflects human priorities and values, which means it can be reshaped. The future of capitalism and of society itself depends on whether we confront its truths honestly and act collectively to build a more just and balanced system. Capitalism's impact on mental health is another often overlooked truth. The relentless drive for productivity, profit, and performance can foster chronic stress, burnout, and anxiety. In many capitalist societies, individuals are expected to hustle constantly, equating their self-worth with their economic output. This can lead to a deep sense of inadequacy for those who are unemployed, underemployed, or simply unable to keep pace. Mental health services, like other aspects of well-being, are often commodified, making access dependent on one's ability to pay. Another critical truth is how capitalism interacts with education. In many countries, education systems are increasingly being treated as markets, with private institutions, student loan industries, and standardized testing companies profiting enormously. This can turn education into a product rather than a public good, prioritizing profit over learning. Students are often saddled with debt, and schools in poorer areas receive less funding, perpetuating cycles of poverty and inequality. Capitalism also tends to marginalize communities that don't fit its profit models. People with disabilities, the elderly, or those with chronic illnesses often find themselves excluded or undersupported in capitalist economies because they are not seen as economically productive. This results in social exclusion and systemic neglect, highlighting the system's inability to equitably value all human lives. Additionally, capitalism has a strong tendency to globalize, seeking out the cheapest labor and materials regardless of borders. While this can lift some people out of poverty, it also often leads to exploitation. Multinational corporations can operate in countries with weak labor laws, paying subsistence wages and ignoring worker rights. This global race to the bottom keeps costs low for consumers in wealthier countries but perpetuates inequality and poor working conditions in the global south. Capitalism also commodifies basic needs such as housing, health care, and water, which many argue should be universal rights. When these necessities are subject to market forces, access becomes unequal. For example, housing markets can become speculative investment platforms rather than serving their primary purpose to shelter people. This leads to housing shortages, skyrocketing rents, and homelessness, especially in urban centers. A more subtle consequence of capitalism is the erosion of community and social cohesion. When survival depends on competition, individuals are often pitted against one another. This can foster isolation, alienation, and a weakened sense of collective responsibility. Social bonds are frayed when success is defined in individualistic, financial terms rather than communal well-being. Furthermore, capitalism has a tendency to appropriate social movements and values once they become profitable. Ideas that began as radical critiques like environmentalism, feminism, or racial justice are often watered down and turned into market-friendly trends. This process, sometimes called woke capitalism, can hollow out the original intent of these movements, using them as marketing tools while avoiding real systemic change. Lastly, capitalism's flexibility and ability to adapt is both its greatest strength and a double-edged sword. It can evolve in response to crises, incorporate new technologies, and absorb elements of other systems. However, this adaptability also makes it difficult to challenge. Instead of collapsing under its contradictions, capitalism often transforms them into new markets, turning environmental disaster into green tech industries or social discontent into consumer brands. The truth is, capitalism doesn't disappear in the face of failure, it often profits from it.
Thank you for watching, and don't forget to smash that subscribe, like, and notification bell for more global finance uncovered.